Hi everyone, and welcome to my video on variation number 26. This variation is about upper ricochet and down bow ricochet and combining both. Upper ricochet works in the same way as down bow ricochet does, but if you're not yet familiar with ricochet, check out the videos I made on variations number 20 and 25, because that's where I go into a lot of detail on ricochet in general and particularly down bow ricochet. I have the links in the description. At first, get used to doing ricochet with an up bow. Start in the same way as you did with down bow ricochet, just by throwing the bow on the string, just so that you get used to the bow bouncing on its own on the string on an up bow. Very easy. Happens completely on its own. The next step is to take the bow away from the string while it's still bouncing, so that you don't get the long note at the end. What we don't want is this. So to stop that from happening, what we do is we take the bow off of the string. Doesn't matter how often it bounces, and it doesn't matter if it's uncontrolled. Just get used to letting the bow bounce and then stopping all of this by taking the bow away from the string. Also very easy. The bow does it all on its own. The next step is to take the bow away from the string after it bounced 3 times. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly 3 times and it's a little bit uncontrolled like I demonstrated. It's just a matter of getting used to letting the bow bounce, hopefully 3 times, and then taking the bow away. Just getting used to the entire motion, throwing the bow on the string and taking it away again. Don't worry about the exact amount, you will get to that later. Now, to get this more exact, it's a good idea to practice up bow and down bow ricochet straight after each other, because in down bow ricochet you have the opposite motion and it feels a little bit more controlled than the up bow ricochet, at least with most people. So what you do is you do it in a down bow. Do that for a while and you'll notice it becomes more precise as you go along. Remember, this is a passive bowing, the bow does it. You have to hear when to stop it bouncing. That's all you need to do. The bow does the bouncing. It's a good idea not to do it completely at the tip for several reasons. First of all the way at the tip you have very little control. I don't know how often that bounced. So you have very little control. Whereas if you're more towards the middle, perhaps slightly above the middle, you get a lot more control that way. The other reason why I would not recommend doing this right at the tip is because it's very soft there. It's better, if you want the ricochet to be forte, to do it also around the middle somewhere. You can control a lot with ricochet by controlling how high you let the bow bounce. The higher you let the bow bounce, the slower the ricochet. So if you have... I'm still letting the bow do it, but I'm allowing the bow to jump quite high, and that will take quite a bit of time for it to go up and back down again, so that slows down the ricochet. If I want to speed up the ricochet, what I do is I don't let it jump so high by pressing down the stick a little bit. That speeds up the ricochet. So basically that's how you can control the ricochet, but remember it's a passive bowing and therefore the bow does it. As preparation for this variation, it's a good idea to add 2 more notes to the up bow for this part. So to practice that a little bit, basically it's the same thing. Instead of doing like that, you go. Remember, the last note is broad, it's not short, it's not, but it's marked in the music that way, so when you're preparing this variation, you might as well practice it that way. When you feel comfortable with that, then practice that in scales. Just to get used to it. Also, it's a good idea to revise the repeated down bows. That's this. The repeated down bows are something which I've already explained in quite a lot of detail on my video on variation number 4. So if this is new to you, take a look at the video because I go into more detail there. Basically, this is just to revise them. Remember, it's a circular motion with wrist, hands, and fingers. Practice that in scales as well to revise it. Because that will help you with the variation if you've worked that again. As always, when you start practicing this variation, don't go into it up to speed right away and don't immediately do it with Ricochet, but work at the left hand first. The left hand is not that easy in this variation because you have a lot of shifts, you're going up and down a lot. And the other reason why you should spend a lot of time on securing the left hand is because Ricochet is a passive bowing, which means the bow does it, the bow determines it. The bow also determines the speed to a certain extent, which means the left hand has to follow, the bow leads. And in order to get the coordination between the right and left hand, the left hand has to be very, very secure to be able to follow what the bow does. So give yourself a lot of time to secure the left hand so that the left hand is easy for you. Once it's easy, the left hand can follow the bow. Before, that won't be possible. So start off practicing it, keeping the bow on the string because that will give you plenty of time. That's very, very helpful because the more familiar you are with what the left hand has to do, the easier it will be later on to concentrate completely on the bow and let the left hand just follow. So basically you have to imagine it that the left hand does its job automatically and you can put all your concentration onto the bow. That's particularly important in this part. Because that's where you have a lot of shifts. You're going up and down a lot. So make sure you really secure the left hand so that the left hand is easy for you, because then you can concentrate completely on the Ricochet. When you practice the Ricochet in this variation, don't play the Ricochet right at the tip. I mentioned it in the preparation exercises already, but I'd like to mention it again because it's marked in the music that way. According to the music, you're supposed to do the Ricochet at the tip. The trouble is, it won't really work out very well. The bow is too light at the tip to get a strong Ricochet. And you need a strong Ricochet in this variation because it's forte. So if you're doing the Ricochet up here, it's just too soft. Also, it's very, very difficult to control it, to get it rhythmically precise. So I would recommend doing it slightly above the middle, not too far above the middle. Sounds a lot better and you have a lot more control. You can test it for yourself, you can try it out, you can even do it slightly below the middle. You can't do it very much lower than about here because the bow is too heavy, it won't bounce. Also take a good look at how much you've tightened the hairs of your bow. Basically, I'll just go into it briefly. The rule is that in the middle of the bow, where the stick and the hairs are closest to each other, that gap between the hair and the stick should not be more than the stick itself. So make sure that your bow hairs are not too loose, but also that they're not too tight, because that gets very, very difficult to control if you have that much tension on the bow. So check that out as well, and find the place where the ricochet works best for you and also gives you the sound you want. It doesn't help you if you could do it precisely up here, but nobody can hear it. So give yourself the time to experiment to see where does it work best. Or here. Basically, it gets softer and softer the closer you get to the tip, and it gets louder the closer you get to the middle. And also, the closer you get to the middle, the more control you have. And this is a ricochet which is supposed to be rhythmically precise, so that's an important aspect. Now, the next important thing is the bow division. Remember, a precise and exact bow division gives you security, because then you are doing everything at exactly the same place all the time. If you do the ricochet sometimes here and sometimes here and sometimes there, or anything else, if you keep doing it in different places of the bow because you haven't organized your bow division exactly, then you will never get a feeling of security, because it'll be different every time. A precise bow division will give you the security. Now, you start in the lower half at the frog, and make sure that first slur takes you to the place where you want to do the ricochet. Like I mentioned, I like doing it slightly above the middle. If you would like to do your ricochet closer to the tip, you need to take more bow on your first down bow, because that's got to transport you to the place where you want to do the ricochet, which is why you need to know where you want to do the ricochet. And then you travel back in the air for the next one. That has to take you back to the frog, because that's where you do the down bow. So make sure that takes you exactly to that place. You can use a lot of bow on that. And that will take you back again to where you want to do the ricochet. Now, as from bar 9, we have a slightly different figure. That's this. There again, the down bow takes you to where you want to do the ricochet. Last note is on the string and takes you back down to the frog. So make sure you organize your bow division so that it all works, and so that you always get to the place where you want to do the ricochet or the down bows. That's probably one of the most important things in bow technique in general, to organize your bow division so that you can do the various different bow techniques in exactly the place you would like to do them. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed practicing this variation.